Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Well, during war times, obviously some people do not want to participate. Therefore, they are trying to leave the country. But as you know, Ukraine, in this case, was under martial law since the 24th, I think, of February 2022, when the Russians, invaded. So since then until now, about 20,000 Ukrainians, adult population eligible for military, fled the country illegally. And it seems like about 20,000 more attempted to do that, and they were caught. So it's about 40,000 Ukrainians that did not want to have any part of this little war. So I have an article coming from BBC via Ukrainska Pravda to give us some information. So, Ukrainska Pravda. BBC says nearly 20,000 men fled Ukraine to avoid conscription. This is per Friday, November 17th, 2023. So, the BBC has found that nearly 20,000 men have fled Ukraine since the start of the full-scale war to avoid being drafted into the country's army. Ukraine's State Border Guard Service is unaware of such fighters, adding that attempted illegal border crossings fell in 2023. The BBC says it established this number by requesting data on illegal border crossings from Ukraine's neighbors Romania, Moldova, Poland, Hungary, and Slovakia. And I will show you on a map right here from the evil Russians. Why? Because it's the easiest right here. This is Romania right here. This is Moldova. This is Hungary right here. This is Slovakia. This is Poland. So they fled Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, and if you go to Moldova, then you cross into Romania and you go into blah, blah, blah. So this is it. These are the countries they mention here. The data indicate that 19,740 men illegally crossed this country's borders between February 2022 and 31st of August 2023. The BBC said another 21,113 men sought to escape but were detained by the Ukrainian authorities. So that would make about 40,000 Ukrainian men wanted to get the hell out of this situation. So they sought to escape, were detained by Ukrainian authorities. And it says Ukraine's SBGT noted that this figure is smaller, 16,700 people during martial law. See below for a comment and blah, blah, blah. The bulk of them, 14,313, attempted to cross the border on foot or via water, with the remaining 6,800 relying on fraudulently obtaining official documents that claim false exemptions from the draft, such as fabricated illnesses. So that is corruption for you. The Ukrainian president representative in the parliament told the BBC that the problem was acute, and I'm quoting, the government realizes that this phenomenon is not isolated and that it is widespread, but unfortunately, I would emphasize that corruption is very resilient, end quote. A Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's representative said the number of men who left or attempted to leave has no bearing on the military effort. 40,000 people? You think? No. And I'm quoting, I'm convinced that the resilience and readiness of the Ukrainians to defend their independent sovereignty and freedom is 95 to 99%. End quote. Vanislavsky noted in a comment to BBC. I understand that patriotism is a good thing, and to be love your nation, nationalism, if it's directed to the right causes. The thing is, that is a lot of pathos involved in that. Now, to say that 40,000 Ukrainians would play no role, basically, plays 90, not even 5%, 4% And I don't think so. I think if you tell these guys we're going to have 40,000 people right now joining your military, I think we'll be applauding like seals. But on the other hand, they can say, well, yes, that's screwed up. And if they didn't matter, don't punish them, please. All right? That means they were unnecessary anyway. You think they will not be punished? Law is law, martial law. When asked to comment on the figures presented in the BBC story, Andriy Demachenko, a spokesman for Ukraine SBGS, said he had no records from neighboring countries and was unaware of the circumstances under which certain people could have been detained for violating border or migration laws. But BBC had access, you didn't have access, you don't have any, all right. Demachenko stated that it bears mentioning that the data from the European Border and Coast Guard Agency, Frontex, indicates that the figures for the detention of Ukrainian citizens on the EU's eastern borders are much lower. Well, it doesn't really matter. I mean, much lower what? 20%, 30%, 50%? Still you have 20,000 people if you get 50% out of 40,000. Therefore, Frontex data reveals that 8,512 Ukrainian citizens were detained for illegally crossing the EU eastern borders between March 22 and August 23. This included 5,035 individuals in March-December last year. 3,477 individuals were detained in January until August 2023. Ukrainian border guards have detained 16,700 male Ukrainian citizens who have attempted to illegally cross the border through the Green Line, forests, mountains, rivers, or by other illegal means. Can you imagine how many people you have at the border to apprehend these guys? People that could be used for fighting the war. I don't think the Romanians will invade Ukraine anytime soon. It says over 7,000 more people were caught trying to illegally cross the border at checkpoints, including by using forged documents. So you get to a lot of people. Furthermore, Ukrainian border guards refused to allow almost 43,000 Ukrainian citizens to leave the country at checkpoints in the first 10 months. I think as all this gets, the number gets higher than 40,000 people who tried and who succeeded. This is 17% more than in the same period last year. Nearly 300 criminal groups engaged in the illegal trafficking of persons across the border have been exposed during martial law. In addition, individuals attempted to bribe SBGS inspectors over 800 times in order to obtain a decision to allow them to cross the border. The total amount of bribes in question amount to roughly $221,500. So $221,000. The persons involved were handed over to the relevant law enforcement agencies. That sounds to me like an migration, like caribou migration. If you calculate, I say that's more than 40,000 people. Probably, let's say 50,000, but I don't have the data. But let's put 40. Let's be nice. 40,000 people. Now, if you calculate 40,000 people, you get to a great number during this, how many months we got? 18 months, 20 months, let's say. You get to a great number of people trying to escape every month. I don't blame them. If you don't want to participate in a crime, the best way to do it is just to get yourself out. Now, I understand a law is a law. Martial law was instituted. You're supposed to show up. You didn't. We'll have the Russians figure things out later. Why do I say the Russians? Because they will be the ones that are gonna look over these guys' desertions or not participation. I think eventually these guys will get amnesty, because what's going to happen in Ukraine will be, Ukraine probably is going to be a neutral country. The Russians, I'm assuming, I mean, all the data and the numbers indicate that the Russians will not lose unless, as I said, Putin and about maybe 300 more people in half an hour get removed and replaced with people from foreign countries. In order to stop everything and control everything, which is hard because you got not the first echelon, you have the second echelon, which is not going to follow order of the first echelon. It's hard, but anyway, if that happens, then those people probably will be, even though it's hard to just punish 20,000 people, and those 20,000 people who crossed the border in those countries did not end up in Romania. They went to Germany, France, wealthier countries, and they will never come back. I guarantee you that. Especially if they know that they might be arrested if they come back and court-martialed and blah, blah, blah. No, no, no. I mean, if you're, yeah, you do that. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.